Janesville native and UW-Madison graduate is mourning the death of former President Jimmy Carter because she has a unique connection to the 39th President of the United States. This is a sketch created by Catherine Moore. Moore is an associate professor of art at Gwinnett College in Lawrenceville, Georgia. The artwork is featured at the Jimmy Carter Presidential Library and Museum in Atlanta. There's a photo of the late president holding the sketch. President Carter even wrote her a letter thanking her for the beautiful work. Recently, she was hired by the Washington Post to create a new Jimmy Carter sketch to publish in their paper to announce his death. She says the experience with President Carter was the highlight of her career.